All right, let's dive in. We're tackling Book Theory Blue today. It's this wild ride of a story by this artist, Rory Pendleton. And he gets into, like, all these really intense theories, about reality, aliens,
Right.
the power of positive thinking. It's a lot.
Yeah, from what I've seen, the guy's pretty intense, wants to be understood. It's like spilling his guts onto the page, right? And it's not just a story.
Exactly. And the thing that keeps popping up is this purple beams thing. Like, Rory sees them as this good force, like a shield against all the bad vibes. I'm kind of wondering how that's all going to play out.
Yeah, me too. Seems super important to his, like, whole philosophy. But before we get lost in characters and all that, maybe we lay down the basics, like Rory's main theory.
Okay, yeah, good point. So he thinks we're all living in, get this, unreality.
Yeah.
And it's all controlled by this, like, shadowy figure he calls Mr. Blue. And Mr. Blue, well, he feeds off our suffering.
Whoa. Okay, so it's like we're puppets and this Mr. Blue guy's pulling the strings.
Yeah.
Making us miserable.
Right. And he even thinks the media, the government, maybe even, like, big corporations, are all in on it, keeping us in the dark. Purposely.
Man, that feeling of being controlled, it's like primal. It's everywhere throughout history. Myths, conspiracies, it's all about that fear. Rory's just giving it a new name.
And what really sends Rory down this rabbit hole is, well, it's these congressional hearings
Right.
about UFOs. He's totally convinced, right, these, like, ex-military guys are telling the truth about aliens. But the media ignores it. And that just makes his paranoia skyrocket.
Makes sense, though, in a way. Imagine that your whole trust in the system just shatters. You start questioning everything. Who's in control? What are their motives? It's got to be a vulnerable place to be.
For sure. And this is where things get, like, even more complicated. Rory's a big cannabis guy, but it's portrayed as both, like, a reason for his paranoia, right, taking me deeper into the conspiracies, but also as this way to connect the dots. Like, he sees patterns others miss.
It's that double-edged sword, Altered perception. On one hand, you're open to new ideas. But on the other, your reality gets all twisted, makes you see threats everywhere. And with Rory, well, it just makes his mistrust of authority even worse. Fuels his obsession with this Mr. Blue.
Okay, so we got paranoia, distrust, all that. Now let's bring in some of the other people in Rory's world. And this Rupert guy, he's just straight up creepy.
Oh, tell me about it. That courtyard scene. Rory talks about Rupert's eyes, like piercing blue eyes. Gives me the chills.
Seriously. Rory's convinced Rupert's an alien, like representing these blue beams. It's the opposite of purple beams, like the embodiment of all the negativity Rory's trying to fight.
It's that thing we do, right? Project our fears onto others, especially people who seem, different, threatening. Rupert becomes the symbol of everything Rory's scared of.
Right. Okay, so we got this creepy Rupert encounter, and then things take a turn. Rory has this mental health crisis, ends up in a psych ward. It's there he meets Purple Peach, another patient. And she actually kind of gets him, validates him.
Yeah, Peach is interesting. She's the only one who's really open to Rory's ideas, the purple beams especially. Everyone else thinks he's nuts.
Yeah.
But she sees something in his, ramblings, maybe something that connects to her own struggles.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the human connection piece really comes in. Even in this, like, super controlled environment, Rory finds someone who gets it. It's like a light in all the darkness.
It's huge, that connection with Peach. Shows him he's not alone. That even in a place for, mental illness, someone understands his struggle, that need to find meaning in all the chaos. It's like all of Rory's relationships, they kind of mirror those bigger struggles he's dealing with out in the world. Like his friends, they almost become like little versions of those forces he sees everywhere.
Okay, that's interesting. What do you mean by that? How do his friends fit into all this?
Well, you've got George, right? Super loyal, sticks by Rory no matter what. Even when he's totally lost, George represents that, like, pure support, that unwavering belief. It's got to be grounding for Rory, especially when his world feels so shaky.
So George is like the purple beams in human form.
Yeah.
That positive force helping Rory through the darkness.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's Teddy. At first, he's all into the UFO stuff, but then he gets distant, suspicious even. Starts accusing Rory of, like, threatening him. It's almost like Teddy represents that fear, when someone's whole worldview gets messed with.
Oh, I see what you mean. It's that knee-jerk reaction. Like when someone throws out ideas that will challenge your beliefs, instead of talking it out, you just shut down, get scared.
And that fear, man, it's powerful, can make people do crazy things, see threats that aren't even there, which kind of plays right into Mr. Blue's hands, right? Just feeds that negativity, the paranoia, the stuff Rory's trying so hard to break free from.
Okay, so we've got George, the good vibes, Deddy, the fear. Where does Barry fit in?
Barry's the skeptic, always questioning Rory, looking for logic, explanations. He's that part of us,
Yeah.
that wants proof, evidence, resists getting pulled into Fantasyland, the conspiracies.
So he's like the anchor for Rory, keeps him from going too far out there with his theories.
Exactly, and I think that's really important, not just for Rory, but for us too, Reading this, Barry's skepticism, it makes us think critically. Question what Rory's saying. Look at things from different angles.
Right, like even though Book Theory Blue takes us into this world of paranoia and, well, craziness, we still got to be skeptical, question things. Even the stuff that feeds our own fears.
Exactly. And then you've got Anne, Rory's neighbor.
Yeah.
She's tricky. She cares about Rory, his mom, but she's also the one who tells him about Project Bluebeam, which is a whole other level of crazy.
Wait, what was Project Bluebeam again? It's been a bit since I looked at all this.
It's this theory, right, about a fake alien invasion staged by the government to control everyone. And Anne, she's telling Rory to be scared of it, which just adds to his paranoia.
So she's supportive, but also like feeding his paranoia. It's like she shows both sides of people, empathy, but also manipulation.
And it makes you think, right, about information. Even with good intentions, it can be twisted, used as a weapon, especially when someone's already, prone to believing certain things and might not mean to, but she's pushing Rory further down the rabbit hole.
Wow. So even the people trying to help, they end up making his paranoia worse. It's like he's trapped in this echo chamber of his own fears, and everyone around him just makes it louder.
That's a good way to put it. Paranoia is tricky like that. Messes with your reality, makes it hard to tell who's being real and who's trying to mess with you.
So we've got George, Teddy, Barry, Anne. Who else? What about, like, his family? Did they play a big role?
We get bits and pieces about his mom, his dad, who's passed away. His mom seems, grounded, worried about Rory, but also lets him do his own thing. And his dad, even though he's gone, he still affects Rory's thinking.
Right. That dream Rory has about his dad, who was an atheist.
Mm-hmm.
And in the dream, his dad's scared of there being nothing after death, which is kind of surprising for someone who didn't believe in an afterlife.
Yeah, it's unexpected. Shows that even people who are super sure about things, they can have doubts, especially when it comes to, death. And it's interesting how Rory, who's also an atheist, he tries to comfort his dad in the dream, saying maybe there is something more.
Like he's wrestling with his own mortality,
Yeah.
wants to believe in something bigger, even though logically he knows better.
Exactly. And that conflict, a lot of people feel that, I think, especially after a loss or trauma. We want to believe, that our loved ones are still out there. But it's hard to make that fit with how we understand the world.
Makes you think maybe Rory's search for unreality is partly about his grief, trying to find meaning, connection in a world that feels broken.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. It all ties back to our experiences, our traumas, relationships. All that shapes how we see the world, the stories we tell ourselves. Rory's Book Theory Blue, it's like a mirror of what's going on inside him.
So he's taking his inner world and putting it out there.
Yeah.
Using his art to deal with his emotions.
Yeah.
The big questions. Life, death, reality.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so interesting. It's not just about aliens and conspiracies. It's about what makes us tick, the power of believing in things, trying to find meaning when things feel meaningless.
And the people in his life, whether they're helping, challenging, or, messing with his head, they're all part of his journey, pushing him towards or away from the truth he's looking for.
They're like mirrors, yeah. Reflecting back his anxieties, his hopes, his doubts. And in the end, it's up to Rory and up to us reading it to decide what we believe, what stories shape how we see ourselves and the world.
This is a lot to think about, but it's fascinating. And I think we got to talk about one more character, the most important one, Rory himself.
Mm-hmm.
How does he see his role in all of this?
That's a perfect question, a perfect way to move into the next part of our deep dive. Because as we look closer at what's going on inside Rory's head, we'll see he's not just watching things happen. He's creating his own reality.
Okay, so we talked about all the people around Rory, how they, kind of push him and pull him in different directions. But what about Rory himself? How does he see, his own part in all of this?
Well, he's not, he doesn't see himself as a victim, he's helpless in this unreality thing. He's more like a fighter, taking on Mr. Blue head on.
Yeah, he even says he's on a kamikaze mission, right? To wake everyone up, show them the truth he thinks he's found.
Right. And his weapon, it's not like guns or anything. It's his art, his creativity. He's fighting a different kind of war, a war of ideas, using book theory blue to shake things up, make people question, well, everything.
It's kind of sneaky, in a way. He's not telling people what to think, but he's opening their minds to the idea that maybe things aren't what they seem. And that's where the purple beams come in, right?
Yeah, they become more than just a theory. They're like a way of life, a way to fight back against the darkness by being positive, resilient.
And I think that's something, for all of us listening, think about the stuff you deal with, the negativity. How do you stay positive when it feels like the world's trying to drag you down?
It's a tough question, right? We all struggle with it. But Rory's story, even if you don't believe all his theories, it gives us some ideas. Find your people, find your strength, and, well, focus on the good, even when it's hard.
It's like he's saying, the world's a mess, but we don't have to be. We can choose to fight back, stay purple, shine our own light, even when it feels, really dark.
And that's powerful. No matter what you think about Mr. Blue or unreality, it's about taking control, telling your own story, choosing to make things better.
So how can we, the listeners, how can we stay purple? What does that even look like, in real life?
Maybe it's being thankful for the good stuff, surrounding yourself with positive people, finding ways to express yourself through art, music, whatever.
Maybe it's standing up for what you believe in, speaking out, not letting fear shut you down.
Or maybe it's just like noticing the good stuff, finding beauty in everyday things, holding on to hope, even when things feel hopeless.
It's about realizing we have a choice in how we react, how we see the world. We can create our own reality, even if it's just like a little bit of light in all the darkness.
And maybe those little bits of light, they can connect, show others the way, create something bigger, something that can really fight back against the bad stuff, the negativity, the control.
Well, this has been quite a journey, exploring book theory blue and Rory's mind. I think we've covered a lot. But like any good deep dive, it leaves us with more questions than answers.
That's what makes it good, though, right? Makes you curious, challenges how you think, and makes you want to, well, keep exploring.
So to everyone listening, go check out Book Theory Blue. See what you think. What parts hit home for you? What makes you question, what's real? And most importantly, how can you stay purple?
Remember, you have the power to tell your story, to shape your world. Embrace the purple beams and keep shining.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and stay purple.